What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. As this is day one of full time for the channel, and I wanted to do something for all the channels, kind of a reintroduction to myself and to the channel, specifically. So that's what I'm doing here. I am doing video by video for each channel, reintroducing myself to you as the viewer and a subscriber or whatever of the channel. So thank you very much for joining me here. Clear Talk, Clear Talk, Clear Talk. So this one, this channel, well, I guess I'll first off to start with me. I am JMD. I started originally with my drum channel over there. JMD stands for my name plus drummer, which is Jason Martin, drummer. That's what that means, very simply. And for this channel, I decided, I've always been interested, or have over the past few years grown very interested in politics and also in my religious path and stuff like that, or spiritual path, or whatever the case. And I wanted to create a channel where I could actually express and talk about those different things, my interest, things that I find interesting, or things that I am concerned about, or want to engage with people about, or whatever the case. And not only just that, but also life things or anything. This channel actually was originally, I created it for anything. I could talk about, whatever subject you wanted to talk about. It's kind of just a drop, fall, all, whatever. But it has pretty much become mostly centered around politics and religion. And but it does have the opening to be more, grow and to have more subjects at hand. If I want to talk about it, or if you give me that, a subject to talk about, or whatever the case. But just more about me. I grew up, and I'm going to start the religion part, and then, which will actually, to some degree, kind of just direct into the politics, because it's all kind of connected, right? Whether some people like it or not, they are in some way, form, or fashion connected with anybody. So I started out early on. I grew up in a Christian family, religious family. I was in church by the time I was like 5 years old, and pretty heavily, it was Southern Baptist for the most part. Most of my whole journey was Southern Baptist, with some later on influences from more contemporary non-denominationals and stuff like that. But most of was Southern Baptist. So I grew up in that atmosphere, learning all about the Bible from their perspective, the evangelical spirit and whatnot, pretty heavily in every day, every Sunday, every Wednesday, youth, children's church, the youth groups, trips, the whole 9 yards. Learning the Bible as much as I could. I mean, from memorizing the books of the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, forwards and backwards, and doing all those types of activities. I mean, you name it, I was in it. And for the longest, I was baptized around 10 years old, which was somewhat influenced by my cousin, because he was baptized a few months before that. And so it was kind of like put in my head to some kind of pressure and thought that I needed to also do the same at some point, and trying to get serious about it, I guess. So at 10 years old, and we were at the same age at the time, or still the same age. But so that was what I did. I followed suit. I did it. And at the time, and it felt right. It felt like what not only what I should do, but what I wanted to do. I honestly did, for myself. I thought I wanted to do it. So that continued on throughout my, all throughout my teens. Of course, we moved around, changed churches, but for the most part, that was my influence and surrounding, and what I really revolved a lot of my life around was that life, the church and whatnot. I never was big in, partying or any of the normal, like, crazy stuff that teenagers get themselves into, whether it's, drinking, smoking, all that kind of stuff. I didn't really do that, like, to any major degree or anything. Drinking, not at all. I like the first time I tried a cigarette, I was like maybe 16, I think, something like that. And it was like, just once. On, crazy enough though, on a church trip, and everything happens on a church trip. But it was just that the idea though that of being in that, having that influence in my life, and that I, was in a lot of the way, even though it was me bringing it on myself, it was a shame kind of thing. I was ashamed of doing anything like that when it come to, like I said, any kind of substance or something of that form, or even when it come to like relationships, like, girlfriends or sex or anything like that. It was just like, it was a shameful kind of thing. Like I didn't want to put myself in the situation where I would be, a lot of it was me not want to put myself in a situation where I would feel like I had to choose one or the other or something, or the peer pressure, I guess, as you could say. So that was pretty much like that, and that followed me for, into adulthood, constantly trying to revolve in myself around that upbringing, the idea and of God and the fear of God, and my life as a whole, my afterlife, and trying to all that stuff, all the pressure that you feel from that, and that also was influenced. That also influenced, and my family influenced, even into politics when it come to the idea. They were very conservative, that whole conservatism around religion. As we know, most, a lot of Republicans, conservative people, or religious people, and it kind of goes hand in hand. Even if to some degree it's a little goes against interests in a lot of ways, but nevertheless, they were conservative, so I kind of automatically fell into that originally when I started getting into politics, or like having some sort of, which, everybody a lot of times starts, most people anyway, starts with first time voting, right? When you turn 18, you're eligible to vote, or 17, whatever, in some type, I guess, some situations. But you're able to vote, and so it's like the first time you're able to vote for president or something like that. That's the initial, whatever a lot of times you're influenced by your parents, your surroundings, your environment, or whatever. And so that was where I started. I voted for George Bush. The first time I was able to vote, that was in like, I think it was 2000, for his first, wasn't that his first? I think that was his first, yeah, his first time, his first 4 years. And I voted for him, because I thought, that's what I was supposed to do. We were Republicans. The Republicans were the good guys. I didn't really understand or know anything at that time about that. So, it was just ingrained in me that that's what I should do. That's where I should follow. That was my people, basically. And I didn't know any better, or didn't know any differently. So that's where I started, and that was the depth of my politics at the time, uh, and I didn't really delve any deeper than that for a long time. And because I voted for, uh, I want to say I voted for him again for a second term, even though I didn't completely agree with everything that was happening, around, September 11th and stuff like that, and what happened afterwards. I was skeptical and weird about it, some of that. I think I did ultimately vote for him, though, the second time around. If I voted, I'm pretty sure I did. And then when it come, but even still, at that time, I didn't really delve a whole lot into it. It became kind of a something because I was too busy worried about growing up, my life, my early adulthood, in my 20s, family, wife, kids, all that kind of stuff. And then also uh, it was around 24, 25, which would have been right around the time that we were getting to the Obama era and whatnot. I wasn't even worried about politics at that time. It wasn't a whole lot. I was more then religion was more of influence, and me trying to work through that, because it was around 25 when I started um uh disconnecting and trying to learn about religion stronger. So that became a big part of my life at that time. And so it was, I kind of put politics and everything was just on the back burner, in the back of my mind. I didn't really concern myself with that. It was all about my life, personally, spiritually, religiously, emotionally, everything else around around that. So that was pretty much where I was at that time. And so since 25, I've backed away. It took me about a year for me to completely go from being a fairly religious person to not being religious really at all. And then it was a whole lot of process of that from going through all the different anger, frustration, pushback, everything that I did there, in that moment over several years after that. Even from friends to family, pushing on them, fighting over it, arguing over it, to the point where eventually I got annoyed and tired of that, and it was just like, okay, whatever, I don't care anymore. And then that's when I started me walking away from religion and changing my whole viewpoint of the world and where we live and why we're here and everything like that, made me start to re-examine my politics, the way I saw the world, the way uh, politicians and our government works with the world and works with domestically and all these different things, policies that are in, how things work here, all that kind of stuff. I started trying to learn and understand it deeper and deeper, because I felt like I didn't allow myself to know or understand that before that. So that it's been kind of since then, since around, I guess, since I was around 30, maybe a little bit over after that, between 30 and 35 or whatever, for a few years there, it was constant. Like, it was like me kind of joining the two together, politics and religion, and going in a completely different direction than what I grew up with, and that I was influenced by my family and whatnot, to now being, openly and acceptingly, under the guise of an atheist, um, with my own views of life and the world and our existence and everything. Um, and two, also, as far as politically, being more progressive and uh, way further left than a lot of people probably in our country, but not like not to the degree of like, some what one might would consider anarchist or like, communist or something like that. Like, I understand those views to certain degrees, and can find things that I agree with under some of those ideologies, but not as a whole. I'm currently pretty much in the realm of a social democrat. I understand, or I, in my opinion, a good balance is what is really needed. Going one direction fully or another direction fully, I don't. I've realized doesn't completely work. There's not. It's not always black and white, right? It's not. There's always what's normally good for everybody or for things as a whole is to find that nuance in space in the middle, in the gray area. Kind of a combination of things usually works better. So like a little bit of the ideas and stuff from capitalism, a little bit of ideas from socialism, and you kind of combine them together in the democratic sphere, and you can come to a ideology, a combination that actually can and could work for everybody, and make everybody more prosperous, and give everybody a better chance at life in whatever way they want that. I feel like there's this idea a lot of times when you think solely in capitalism, where we are, that we like it's always about opportunity, the privatization idea of, of constantly trying to make a buck or trying to become rich, trying to become wealthy, like this idea, and not everybody wants that. I think those that are hardcore in capitalism, that may be what they want, but I don't think everybody really has that mentality that, they just want to live in a way that they don't feel like they are constantly struggling. A lot of people just want to be okay. That's the idea, and we don't have a lot of things built in, or it's little by little being eroded away. What was built in, or had been built in previously, being eroded away to the point that it's becoming harder and harder to live prosperously, or to live, in a way where you don't feel like you're constantly, the paycheck to paycheck idea and stuff like that. You're constantly having to work yourself to death just to live. And that's where I find that if you put it all together, it can actually, or if you work in certain things, and I've found that under the more progressive ideas, the policies and ideas under more progressive people, more social democratic people, and the things that they promote, for policies that they promote and whatnot, I feel can or could really actually help us get to that point where we can help everybody have the life that they want, whether that is just living in the best of their means, or or wanting to become rich and wealthy, or whatever the case. I just find that it works better. I feel that it would work better for everybody if we were in that. And to me is also sits in the middle of all the political left and right. You're not extremely religious or conservative or right wing. You're not extremely left and anarchist and just want to blow up the whole system, or whatever the case. Like, it's a kind of a happy medium in the middle. Not to be confused with the idea of like centricism or corporatism or anything like that sits in the center a lot. That's not what I'm talking about. But but that's where I sit for me politically, and also, like I said, religiously. I'm in the idea of under the atheist sphere. So that's where I'm coming from. That's my disclaimer of who I am and what I'm bringing and how my envision and the things that I promote come across on this channel. I try to be fair. I try to be understanding. I try to look at both sides. I try to and try to meet somewhere in the middle, or have you look at it in a completely different way if I can. Uh, I also like, and that's from the political side. Um, and if that's what you're here, if that's what you are looking for, you're looking for something where you can try to look at the what's going on from a more in the most rational, fair, way, where we are looking at it in a way that actually is supposed in a way that should help humanity in the most compassionate way possible, in the most fair way possible. That's what I do here. That's what I'm about. And if you're cool with that, and that's what you like, or you're considering, or whatever the case, or something in that, that's hard for me to completely explain it. But then welcome, and this is the space. And but even so, even if you are not, even if you are far further in one direction or another, or you don't know, or whatever, maybe you don't completely agree, you're also welcome here as well, to share your ideas and whatnot. Have respectful engagement with everybody, including me, or whatever the case. Anybody is welcome here. I'm not trying to say that you're only welcome if you're think my way. That's not it at all. I want to open up to everybody, and we have that's the idea, to have clear talk of for everybody to come in together and engage. When it comes to politics, religiously, I love talking about all the different. Now I'm really engaged in learning as much as I can about the time of the Bible, and of course of other religions and mythologies and stuff like that, and their connections and all that stuff. So I like to talk about that stuff as well. So if you like, learning and seeing things even from a religious aspect or biblical aspect, or whatever, in a different way, taking the stories and looking at them, and placing them more in their where they and more way I feel that they may have been actually supposed to mean in that time, and not in our time, which I feel that most people try to do, is act like those writings were meant for what's going on right now, and I just simply don't think that. Then this is your place for that as well, and anything else that we actually decide to get into on this channel, whether it be life stuff or whatever the case. That's what this channel is about. That's what I want to talk about. I will oftentimes talk about, like I said, like world events or things going on in the realm of politics or whatever the case. Domestic news, foreign news, when it comes to wars or whatever, everything that's revolving around politics. That's what we will talk about that stuff here. My opinions about it, get your engagement as well. That's what this channel is about. So I hope that if that's what if you're interested in, then welcome. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for being here. If you've stayed this long, this was a little bit longer than I planned on it being. But thank you very much, and leave in the comments, suggestions or ideas, or let me know how your views on different things. If that's if you want to share your personal opinions on whatever the case, religion or spirituality, or in politics, or life or whatever the case. You can talk about that there, and engage with me or other people in the comments or whatever the case. Like always, though, I do ask to be respectful, as much as you possibly can. And if you like, it is free. Free speech and all, but try to be respectful as much as you can. But thank you very much, and until next time, peace. Clear Talk. I'm out.